Today's case is one that will make you question just how much you can trust those around you. This case involves a mother who just needed a trusted friend to help take care of her young children while she worked to better herself in her career and provide for those children. But this woman just took that trust she was given and absolutely destroyed it when she caused the death of an adorable, innocent little baby. And the consequences of these actions were absolutely devastating. But before we get into this tragic case, if you're looking for the perfect gift for your favorite audio lover, then you're going to want to hear from today's sponsor, Raycon. Raycon's everyday earbuds make your everyday just a little bit easier, so even if your person already has a pair of earbuds, chances are they could use a backup. Raycon's new and improved model of earbuds offer everything you love about Raycons plus more. You can enjoy the new ergonomic design, multi-point connectivity that lets your pair connect to two devices at once, and you get active noise cancellation. They come in a variety of new, vibrant colors that complement any and all skin tones. I personally snagged a pair of their forest green earbuds, which are so cute and unique. I've been really into these kind of greens lately. Plus, they start at half the price of the other guys, so whether you're buying for yourself or a loved one, you won't be breaking the bank. I personally use my Raycons every single day for working out and listening to music or when I'm traveling. But sometimes I do forget to charge them, which can be a pain. But the new Raycons offer a new quick charge function, which delivers 90 minutes of battery time with just a 10-minute charge, which is literally perfect for when I forget to charge them. I just put them on the charger while I'm on the way to the gym, and boom, I have the perfect amount of battery life. Then, when fully charged, they still have an amazing battery life, offering 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life. The other thing I love about the new everyday earbuds is the multi-point connectivity. It was really nice to have on all of the flights I took this year. I connected them to both my phone for music and then my iPad for when I wanted to watch a movie. It was so nice being able to seamlessly switch between both on the plane without having to disconnect and reconnect them. I also love their new protective covers, which come in so many unique designs and offer wireless charging capabilities. I love how my protective cover looks, and it helps put my mind at ease knowing that my earbuds are protected while I'm out and about with them. I know you will love your Raycons just as much as I love mine, so go ahead and give them a try out for yourself or a loved one. Right now is the perfect time to save for the holidays, so click the link in the description box below or head to buyraycon.com/RSTC to get up to 25% off your purchase site-wide. That's right, you can get up to 25% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/RSTC. Thank you again so much to Raycon for partnering with me on today's video. With that being said, let's get into today's case. Abigail Lobisch was born to her parents Anna and James Lobisch, and she had an older brother named Zach. James is a member of the Army National Guard, so at the time, the family was living on base at the Aliamanu Military Reservation in Honolulu, Hawaii. There, Anna met another military wife, Dixie Villa, who went by Dixie. Dixie was married to Petty Officer Aaron Villa, who served in the Navy. Dixie had been advertising her babysitting services to other families on base, offering to care for their children within her home. By November of 2018, when Abby was around 4 months old and Zach was around 2 years old, Anna agreed to hire Dixie on as their babysitter. At the time, Anna was working full-time while also attending school to become a police officer. She was also going through a really difficult divorce with her husband, James, so overall, Anna was a very busy woman. Over the course of the following 3 months, Anna dropped Abby and Zach off with Dixie on multiple occasions for her to watch them. During that time, nothing significant ever happened, and it seemed like they were being well cared for by Dixie. By the morning of February 23, 2019, Anna asked Dixie to watch Abby and Zach overnight so that she could study for her upcoming exams and just take a bit of time off for herself. Dixie agreed, so by around 11 a.m. that day, Anna dropped Abby and Zach off with Dixie at the Alani Hotel, a Disney resort where Dixie had been staying for the prior 2 nights with her own 2 children. Dixie and the kids spent the day at the pool and resort before returning back to Dixie's home on base by around 6 p.m. that evening. By the time they all returned home, the children had all gotten pretty bad sunburns, so Dixie made sure to rub some lotion on them to help them feel better. For the remainder of the evening, the kids all played together in the playroom while Dixie lied on the couch, eventually falling asleep for a bit while the children continued playing. That night, she took all the kids upstairs to sleep. All of them, including 2-year-old Zach, 7-month-old Abigail, and her own 2 children, both under the age of 5, got into bed together to sleep for the night. But then, by around 8:30 a.m. the following morning, by February 24th, Dixie's son woke her up to let her know that he had woken up all the other kids. But that is when Dixie noticed that not all of the kids were up. Dixie noticed that Abby was still on the bed, lying face down on the bed. At that point, Dixie had realized that Abby hadn't woken up all night that night, even though she normally did wake up at least once each night. But she figured that Abby must have been extra tired from being in the sun all day. But then, when she went to pick the baby up, that is when she realized that something was horribly wrong. Abby wasn't waking up even after being picked up. Her body felt cold to the touch. Her skin was discolored and splotchy. Immediately, Dixie called 911 to report that Abby was unresponsive and immediately began CPR, continuing until first responders arrived. At that point, medics took over, rushing Abby to the nearby hospital. However, tragically, by the time Abby reached the hospital, it was clear that she was already gone. By 8:55 a.m. on the morning of February 24th, 2019, 7-month-old Abigail Lobisch was pronounced dead. After Abby's arrival to the hospital, and with doctors realizing that they weren't going to save her, Anna was contacted by the authorities and told to head to Dixie's home. First responders met her there, who told Anna that her daughter didn't make it. They assured her that they did everything they could to save her, but she was too far gone. Of course, this sent Anna into a state of panic and hysteria. She could not believe that her precious baby girl was gone so suddenly and so out of nowhere. She had no idea what was going on, and at that point, she just wanted answers. Meanwhile, responding officers also spoke with Dixie at the scene, who asked her to explain what happened to Abby. At that time, Dixie took officers inside and basically recreated the scene to show where she and the 4 other children were sleeping that night. She explained what I just told you about how they all slept through the night in that bed before she woke up and found Abby face down, unresponsive. She said that nothing traumatic happened to Abby that day. She didn't swallow water in the pool. She didn't go under for too long. She hadn't hit her head on anything. The only thing that really happened was that she could have gotten a bit of a sunburn, but otherwise, she didn't know anything that could have caused her to randomly collapse like this. So at this point, it seemed possible that this could be a freak accident. She was co-sleeping with the baby, and something happened in the middle of the night, causing her death. Now, I know there are a lot of people who are staunch supporters of co-sleeping and a lot of people who are very much against it, and I know this can be a controversial topic. Some people say that it can be done safely, while others say that it's very dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. I work with babies and young kids in my healthcare job, so of course I want to be open-minded about everything when it comes to raising your kids. However, I just don't see the reason for co-sleeping when it has been proven to be dangerous, especially for children under the age of 6 months. Before that age, babies can't really move on their own. They're usually not crawling. Sometimes they can roll over, but not always. If they were to be trapped under a blanket or an arm, or God forbid, your entire body, they physically can't move out of the way. I get that some people think that it can be done properly and safely, but knowing all the dangers, why are we risking it at all when there are proven much safer alternatives? With that being said, most people who are open-minded about co-sleeping will say that it should be avoided before 6 months, but after that, a baby's physiological system is a little bit less fragile, so it can be done more safely at that time. So at the time, Abby was 7 months old. By 7 months, many infants can be sitting up independently. They may be crawling or at least trying to crawl. They can roll to and from their back and belly, and they can grab objects and are more interested in their surroundings and more aware of what's going on. By this point, they can move a little bit more, which is why some people say it's okay to co-sleep with older infants because they can move if needed. I'm saying all of this because knowing Abby's age and knowing that she can move, it doesn't seem all that likely that she died as a result of co-sleeping alone. So at this point, investigators knew that they needed to look more into this to determine what really was going on here. So, after Abby's death, her body was sent to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. It took a few months to get the results back, but what they found was shocking. According to the toxicology screen, Abby had a lethal dose of diphenhydramine in her system. That is the active ingredient in Benadryl and other medications used as sleep aids. It was found that Abby had 2,400 nanograms per milliliter in her system, which is almost twice the lethal dose of 1,400 nanograms per milliliter, which is the average dose reported in infant fatal overdoses. So, before her death, she was given a significant amount of diphenhydramine. Diphenhydramine is an over-the-counter antihistamine used to help symptoms of allergies, but as I stated, it can also be found in over-the-counter sleep medications. It's supposed to only be used in children over the age of 6, but if it's absolutely necessary for a child aged 2 to 6 to use it, it needs to be monitored by a physician. So already we can see that someone gave this baby a medication that isn't supposed to be given to an infant by any means. On the packaging for medications like Benadryl, it specifically says do not give to children under the age of 6. But even if you wanted to try and dose someone so young, the package gives you directions for how much to give a child around the age of 6. So if for whatever reason you wanted to give it to a child under the age of 6, you logically would think, okay, a 6-year-old gets this much, so let me give this younger child a lot less. So clearly we can see that this warning was ignored, and this person gave Abby so much medication that it doubled the amount that is already fatal for an infant. So not just double the amount that you should give in general, but double the fatal amount. That is a lot of medication. That being said, it was determined that 7-month-old Abby's cause of death was the result of antihistamine poisoning. And based on everything that we've heard up to this point, it seems as if Dixie had to have been the one to give Abby that Benadryl at such a high dose. So, by July of 2019, a warrant was issued for Dixie's arrest. She then turned herself in to the Honolulu Police Department shortly after, where she was charged with manslaughter. After her arrest, she pleaded not guilty. She did then post her bond, so she was released as she awaited her trial for her charges. After this arrest, more information about Dixie and her past started coming to light, and what Abby's mother, Anna, discovered about the woman she entrusted with the care of her children was terrifying. Turns out, Dixie had been arrested numerous times between the years of 1997 through 2006 for charges of battery and domestic violence. In 1998, she was convicted of domestic abuse, then battery in 1999. By around 2015, Aaron and Dixie were living in military housing in Washington state. There, Dixie was running an unauthorized child care center from her home, which was reported and subsequently shut down by Aaron's superior officers. By 2017, the family relocated to Honolulu, where once again, Dixie started operating an unauthorized child care center from her home. According to reports, by December of 2017, a neighbor of Dixie's called the family child care office at the Aleomanu military reservation to report that she had seen multiple instances of Dixie having numerous kids at her home who were wandering around without supervision. The neighbor was told that the incident would be investigated, but Dixie's activities did not stop there. By January of 2018, the neighbor called and reported Dixie once again for having kids in her care who were not being properly monitored. She said that once she saw a little boy out in the backyard playing with a lighter and trying to light a trampoline on fire. This prompted military police to visit the home to check out these claims, but nothing was done. Between January and February of 2018, this neighbor called more than 10 times to report continued unauthorized childcare services, including an ad she posted to Facebook which promoted the services she provided. By March, the neighbor continued calling, saying that multiple toddler-age children were left at the home alone with a teenage foreign exchange student. In another call, it was reported that 4 children were left alone in the backyard. With all of these reports, the neighbor continuously gave photo evidence to back her claims, showing that she was not only still babysitting these kids, but she was still advertising her services on Facebook. These calls and complaints continued for the year that followed. By February of 2019, the neighbor provided a written statement to the U.S. Army garrison to notify them of Dixie's ongoing unauthorized childcare business. Once again, children were being left alone and unsupervised. Children were getting a hold of things that put them at risk, and nothing was being done about it. By February 21st, 2019, once again, military police did visit the home, but nothing was done to stop Dixie from conducting her business. Then, as we know, just 2 days later, Abby would be found dead after being administered a lethal dose of Benadryl. As you can imagine, finding out that Dixie had been operating this childcare business illegally was frustrating enough. But to add to that, she literally was seen neglecting the children and leaving them unsupervised numerous times over the course of years, many of which were being reported to the authorities, yet nothing was done. Had the reports been taken more seriously and had Dixie's operation been shut down, Abby may still be alive today. Then, soon after Abby's death, Dixie's husband, Aaron, actually filed for divorce. He was then granted a temporary restraining order and sought legal custody of their 2 children, stating that Dixie is, quote, not capable of safely caring for the children and neglects children to the extent that the children are not safe in her custody. After the divorce, Dixie moved out of the home she shared with Aaron and reportedly started couch surfing around with different friends and family members. Years passed as the investigation continued, and Abby's family patiently waited for justice. In the meantime, Abby's parents, Anna and James, filed a civil lawsuit against 10 defendants, including the United States, as well as the company who managed the military housing, Island Palm Communities, alleging that they knew about the dangerous and unauthorized activities that Dixie had been conducting, yet they did nothing about it, failing to warn parents of the child endangerment and neglect occurring within Dixie's business. Had Anna been warned, she never would have allowed her children to stay with Dixie, and Abby would be alive today. This was filed in early 2021 and went back and forth in the courts for the months that followed, and of course, the defendants in this case motioned to dismiss, but that was denied in May of 2021. After that, I haven't been able to find any further information on what, if any, resolution has come of the civil suit. The residents within the military housing also went to the U.S. military in Hawaii to demand answers on why they allowed the unauthorized business to continue. According to reports, an investigation was done, and it was found that communication between the different organizations on base was so disjointed that there was not any clear-cut path to force these unauthorized sitters to stop. They also found that the repercussions for these types of infractions weren't strict enough. There were multiple different areas in which improvements could be made, including the Army itself offering more options for childcare, which blows my mind that this isn't already offered widely enough. After the investigation was complete, the Army said that they're making changes in the way they handle these unauthorized childcare operations. Then, finally, almost 6 years after the death of 7-month-old Abby, the trial for manslaughter charges started. In the state of Hawaii, manslaughter is defined as someone recklessly causing the death of another person. Basically, their actions were knowingly dangerous or reckless, yet they did them anyways, and that caused another person to die. The prosecution was arguing that Dixie Villa was alone in her home with her 2 children, as well as 2-year-old Zach and 7-month-old Abby. They claimed that after returning home from their day at the resort, Dixie started to feel overwhelmed by having to care for 4 children under the age of 5. So she chose to calm down the older kids by giving them iPads and gave the 7-month-old Benadryl to make her fall asleep. Dixie did this knowing that infants shouldn't have this drug, failing to even pay attention to the amount that she was giving her, as we saw with the extremely high amount found in her system. Again, it wasn't double the regular dose that you would think you could give to such a young infant. It was double the fatal dose.
She had to take care of 4 small children all by herself. So she gave the slightly older ones iPads to watch them all night, and she gave Abby the fatal dose of Benadryl to make her sleep. Except for Abby, there was no waking up from this sleep.
However, the defense claimed that Dixie may not have been the one to give Abby the Benadryl at all. First, they said that when Abby and Zach were dropped off, Dixie wasn't the only one home. According to Dixie, her 2 daughters, one of which was an adult and the other of whom was a minor, as well as her daughter's friend, were all in the home at one point that day. So the defense argued that any one of those individuals could have been the one to give Abby that Benadryl. However, the prosecution came back and said that the daughters were not in the home around the time that it's thought Abby was given the drug. One of the daughters had to go out of town while the other left to stay at a friend's house. They said that these daughters could have stayed in the home and helped to watch the kids if Dixie let them, but Dixie basically kicked them out and insisted on watching the kids herself. But of course, this led her to becoming overwhelmed. The defense also argued that the drug could have gotten into Abby's system from her mother instead. They argued that Anna could have taken Tylenol PM, which contains diphenhydramine, then passed it on to her 7-month-old daughter when she was breastfeeding her. However, once again, it was stated that the drug must have been given to Abby shortly before she went to bed that night. If it was from the breast milk, it would have had to have been given to her sometime before 11 a.m. that day. And that lethal of a dose in her system, being in her system earlier that day, Abby would have passed out long before she went to bed that night. So once again, Dixie Villa was the only person who could have possibly given Abby that Benadryl that took her life. Those were pretty much all of the arguments made during trial. They also tried to bring Anna's mental health into question, but none of that really had any bearing on whether or not Dixie administered the lethal dose of Benadryl. It seemed to just be a last-ditch attempt at throwing shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. They also motioned for a mistrial at one point, saying that the defense didn't mention Anna's co-sleeping habits early enough, but once again, that did not work. At the end of the trial, the jury was off for deliberations, and it didn't take long before they came back with their verdict. They found that 46-year-old Dixie Villa is in fact responsible for little Abby's death, finding her guilty of manslaughter.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the verdict?
In 1 FFC 19-759, State of Hawaii versus Dixie Denise Villa. As to the charge of manslaughter, we, the jury, in this case, find the defendant, Dixie Denise Villa, guilty as charged of the offense of manslaughter.
Because this was such a recent trial, Dixie has yet to be sentenced, though she faces a maximum of 20 years behind bars. Her sentencing hearing is scheduled for February of 2025, so it will be a bit more before we find out just how much time she's gonna have to serve. And as of right now, that is where the case sits. Dixie remains behind bars as she awaits her sentencing, and Abby's family finally has the justice that they've been waiting for so many long, grueling years. But of course, none of this, not Dixie's conviction, nor the Army's investigation, or the civil suit, will bring Abby back. Something should have been done so much earlier to stop Dixie from having so many kids under her care, but nothing was done. She was clearly irresponsible and not equipped to handle the stress that comes with caring for so many children. It's just so tragic that Abby's life had to be lost before anything was done about it. Do I think Dixie purposely killed Abby? Not necessarily, but I do think she was feeling tired, and all she was thinking about was getting those kids to calm down so she could relax. I think that she gave Abby a massive dose of Benadryl to make her fall asleep, not caring to pay attention to how much she even gave her. All she wanted was for her to be asleep, and it didn't matter the cost because she just wanted to relax. All I can say is that I genuinely hope that Dixie spends as much time behind bars for her careless, restless actions that led to the death of such an adorable, innocent baby girl. But that's what I think, and now I want to hear from you all. Do you agree with the charges of manslaughter, or should she have been charged differently? What do you think of her conviction? Do you think she'll get a heavy sentence? What do you think of all those reports going unanswered? Do you think Abby's death could have been prevented? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you liked this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure to follow my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which is also listed down below. With that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time.